Hello and welcome to Making Marketing Work for Manufacturers. We're going to give folks just a minute or so here to join us, and then we'll get started. See some people starting to join in. Okay. I think we've got a good crew here, so let's get started. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today for Making Marketing Work for Manufacturers. We've been looking forward to this and really enjoy our work with our manufacturing clients and the conversations we've been having lately. And I'm Ray Cameron. I'm the CEO at Intuitive Websites, here with our founder and president, Thomas Young. And we thought we'd open up with a story about, for each of us, about our first manufacturing clients. So my first manufacturing client was back in, I think, 2008, a company called R&B Wire. They're still around today. And they, a big part of their product is wire carts for the healthcare industry. And back in the day, I remember asking the question, does SEO work for manufacturers in big purchases? And we're still asking the same question today about marketing and how it works for manufacturers, different than other industries. So Tom, how about you?
Well, it's an interesting question. My first client ever as a consultant back in the late 90s was a manufacturing company, Lepardo Manufacturing, based out of San Diego, and they were making mobile phones. And back in the day, we used to make phones here in the US for companies like Motorola and things like that. So I've been working with manufacturing companies and industrial B2B companies for almost 30 years now. It's kind of amazing to think about that.
Nice. So between the two of us, we're close to 50 years working with manufacturers. That's kind of fun. So I know some of you that are here today are not manufacturers. You've been invited, you've seen the promo, and you've seen that what we're talking about applies to you too. So we are using a lot of manufacturing language, but I think a lot of what we're talking about will apply to industrial B2B, distributors, and some of the other folks that are here might be listening to the recording. So what you get today is an experience-based look at the marketing challenges you face. And the experience is both Tom and I, but we've been talking to our clients, obviously, for years, but also been interviewing in the last couple of months non-client manufacturing leaders to get a story that's unbiased from not our clients, to hear what they're facing, both just as businesses, but also in marketing. So a lot of experience beyond Tom and I is going into this, what we're sharing today. You'll get an understanding of your audiences so that you can meet them where they buy, instead of just doing marketing for everyone, being really focused. How to define marketing success and measure what matters. How to prioritize the marketing work that will drive results. And again, not just doing a blanket marketing. And a plan you can act on today without budget approval. Some steps that you can take. You may even want to take some notes as we're going along, and it's some actionable things that you can take from what we're doing today. So I mentioned we've been talking to manufacturing leaders and want to share a couple of quotes from these interviews that reflect how we see some people thinking. And there's a lot of different views on marketing. There's questions about whether it works or how well it works. And so this one, sales is really easy to quantify. When you do something, you get a lead. Can you convert the lead? Marketing and brand awareness are hard to quantify, hard to put an ROI against, in my opinion. So we're seeing questions about what works and what doesn't. And a lot of that, a lot of times it's not about whether it works or not, but about measuring it and being able to make the connection between the work and the results. And then another one, from a marketing standpoint, it's important that we build top of mind awareness. You put money into marketing, you hope that there's a return. Some of it you can measure and some of it you can't. And one of the things we want to do today is give you confidence in the work that you're doing, or to be making decisions on the things that you are doing or should be doing that really can drive those results and hopefully measure those. So let's start out with what is marketing. Marketing is how people think about your company. Your reputation is marketing, whether you manage it or not. And marketing, visibility, and branding. Marketing is about visibility and branding. Sales is about the relationships and closing. But we'll talk today about how we work together and how what we do supports the sales team. Marketing is not just something you do when work slows down. It's important all the time. And marketing is not the website you built 5 years ago. It's easy to do something and feel like you're making an impact, but there's more to it than just having a website. We'll talk about that specifically. Tom, you and I talk about this a lot, and it's something you talk to Vistage folks about on a regular basis. Any other thoughts on what is marketing?
Well, think of it this way. You could say, I work for a business, or you could say, I work in marketing. Both of those things are true. If you work at a company, if you work at a business, then you are in marketing, because a business has to have marketing because it has to have customers. If it doesn't have customers, it doesn't have revenue. So therefore you don't have a business. And I think what a lot of people do is they separate the two. They think, well, marketing is something we do at our company. I want you to think about marketing as being your company. Your company is entwined with marketing, and manufacturers are notorious for separating the two. In fact, I know leadership in manufacturing often will consider marketing to be an expense, something that has to be budgeted for, something other people do. We're really engineers, and we build things and we plan things. Well, without the marketing component, you only have a part of your business. Your business has to be entwined with marketing. And that's a big takeaway from today, is that you have to think about everything that you do at your company as impacting marketing and impacting growth for your firm.
So similar to that, marketing 101, what is marketing really about? Marketing fills the pipeline and sales brings the project home. We're a team. And sometimes it doesn't seem that way, but we are here as a team, and we want to serve the sales team to be successful. So it's about getting found, and that includes before there's a project, but also while they're looking. It goes beyond just meeting people that are ready to go and bringing them in, but it's a longer term deal. It's about building trust. And one of those things is showing that you have solved this exact problem before. So when people show up, they're not just hearing about what you do, but they're seeing proof and evidence so that they can see how they can fit and be a partner with you. It's about educating, and that includes specs for the engineer, process and value for the buyer. And that word value is really key here. We'll talk about this a couple times, but we've got to be telling more than just what we do. We've got to be telling about the value that we bring. And we're really talking about our audience, not just talking at or to our audience with those messages. And then it's about growing relationships and staying present through a cycle that is measured in months and sometimes even years, wanting to be there throughout that whole journey. All right, let's talk about how marketing fails for manufacturers. One thing we see is that internal politics and too much thinking stall marketing decisions. And so there's plenty to do, but especially when there's a team of people all having input, sometimes things get slowed down and we miss opportunities to get things going and have an impact. There's no marketing skill set at the company. And a lot of times when we're brought in as an agency to do marketing for our clients, there's been somebody that's an engineer or that has another job, and they're doing the marketing for the company, and they're doing the best they can. But it doesn't get them where they need to be, and sometimes it hurts. When the budget is tight, sometimes the marketing is the first thing that gets cut. Engineers have no time to give anyone content, and what's in the engineer's minds or the sales person's mind, that's some of the most important content that you get, and they need to be available to provide that. Another thing we see is that IT owns the website, so it's treated as infrastructure and not marketing, and it can get really challenging when the website is locked down from the people who want to use it to tell the story. And another thing we see is that you give up too soon. You get 3 months or 6 months into something and you don't see the results that you were expecting. And so you stop and you may just be on the verge of seeing the results of what you've invested in, and you miss out on that.
Yeah, a lot of manufacturers have a thinking that, you build it and they will come. If you build your infrastructure, if you build your company, if you build your plant, if you have great products and great people, the customers will come and just find you because of that. But what we want to tell you in this webinar today is that, yes, some of that is true, but man, it happens a lot better if you put intent behind it. And that's what marketing is. Marketing is the intent to grow your company, the intent to get people to be more aware of you, as opposed to waiting for it to happen. And a lot of the things that we've seen in the last two slides, these bullet points, are things that manufacturers struggle with because they don't put the intent into it. And they don't see marketing as part of their actual business, a part of running the business and doing what they do. Yeah. So we're going to talk about this, Ray, today is the idea that don't just build and expect them to come. Put intent behind it. Have a marketing plan you can roll out and help that process happen. Help people find you at the top of the funnel, and that's going to help you grow your business.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I want to mention here too, just about the format of our presentation today is we do have Q&A and chat open for you. And so if you have questions along the way, feel free to write those, or even something to contribute. We'll be keeping an eye on that and can bring those into the conversation. Okay, we want to talk about knowing your audience before selecting a channel. So there's a lot you can do in marketing, and you can go out and just pick the things that you hear others are doing, or that you hear they're important for manufacturers. But you have to be selective, and be selective based on your audience. And it's about not just choosing a single channel, but figuring out all the channels that work without doing all the channels, some that don't work. So being selective there. And so we do that by really knowing our audience. And the last couple of months, the conversations I've been having with some of the manufacturing leaders that aren't our clients is a lot of them are talking about two audiences, and therefore we talk about two journeys, the two paths that those two audiences go down to make their decision and become your buyers. But we also know, and you've told us that there's more than just two audiences. Sometimes there's a buying team. And so when we talk about two audiences, we're talking about messaging and how we speak to those two audiences, but because we want to differentiate between the needs of people. But we also have to keep in mind that, I'll start with the first one, engineers and decision makers. Those are the two that we're referring to, but there's multiple people in each. Engineers start their research long before the project actually exists. These are folks that may be reading just to stay up with what's going on before they're actually in need for a project or a new product. But the decision makers show up when the project is later in the process, when it's ready to go. And the same message for those two audiences or the buying team moves none of them to action. If we're speaking to all of them, we're really speaking to none of them. And then another thing we want to point out here is that 95% of your market isn't buying right now. And that's a general rule. We talk about the 95-5, that 5% of your market is in the phase where they're ready to take action on something. But we have to be thinking about the 95% of the people that will buy someday. And if we want them to buy from you, we got to be thinking about how we get in front of them and be a part of their journey.
Yeah, and so many manufacturer websites are basically online brochures. So basically what they are is basic content information about the business with maybe some product pages and some capabilities and some machinery listed, things like that. But they're basically online brochures that don't really meet the needs of folks where they are in their buying process. So for example, if an engineer has been researching a solution that you can provide, and they've been doing this for several months, they need to go to a website that's dynamic, that helps meet them where they are in that research process. So that means your website and your content has to go way beyond online brochure copy. It has to go into the very specific content and many times technical specs that help these engineers way before they're making a buying decision. And I know, Ray, we worked in this market for a long time, and a manufacturer buying cycle can be years in some cases. And in fact, it's probably true that your best opportunities and your best customers will take longer time frames to close and become a customer.
Yeah.
So our marketing has to reflect the way they buy and how they do this research. And an online brochure just is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it for people that are in that 95% who are still researching, and it's not going to cut it for the 5% that are ready to move and take action. Your website has to meet the needs of both those kinds of buyers, and it needs to do that with super high value-added copy, and in many cases, much more deeper than what we see in the average manufacturer website.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so how do we measure what's working? And this is one of those problems when people question or doubt it. Sometimes it's not about whether it's working or not, but whether you can measure it. And so we have to go beyond the things that we've relied on for years and really look at how we define success. So defining what success looks like, and then reporting on that. And so these are kind of in order of complexity. If you have a website and Google Analytics, you can measure the spec downloads, the product sheets, requests for samples, and visits to the capabilities pages. And all of those are signaling that there's people with intent showing up at your website. And so even if you don't know who they are, if you have 10 visitors to a spec sheet or that are downloading that 1 month and you have 23 months later, there's something going on there that's telling you there's progress. So standard marketing metrics are incomplete. I'm somebody who's been big on traffic and leads for 18 years. And I have to remind myself to get beyond that too, because it's so easy to rely on something that seems so obvious. But in this day and age, traffic to a website is just a part of the story. And so we've got to get out of that mode, and a lead coming through a form isn't the only way that we're connecting with folks. So, and then know what a real opportunity is worth to you. So while we're measuring things, we have to put that alongside the value that we're getting from the interaction from people. And so have that in mind to put alongside the things that we're measuring, and then measure against the work that you're actually doing. Just doing general reports on general marketing topics doesn't tell you what the work you're doing is turning into. So make sure that if you're doing it, you're measuring it. And then the tools we use, and most people use Google Analytics. We also have a tool called DataBox that's an aggregator, and it pulls data in from Meta and LinkedIn and HubSpot. So we get a more complete picture. And then HubSpot is really key to the work we do with our clients and our own marketing, because it lets us see not just the data on a page or traffic, but the full buyer's journey. And that's what lets us show our clients and what helps you see what's working, not just as an individual thing, but how it contributes to the full journey of your buyer.
It's interesting to note that, in the manufacturing world, there's a lot of engineers, right? There's a lot of folks that are responsible for engineering and solving engineering problems. And engineers love data. And there's a very strong component to marketing that includes data. And we run into manufacturing clients all the time that have not set up their data infrastructure for marketing. It's something that you should do. It's something that's super important. In fact, marketing, just as running your business is a combination of art and science. It's a combination of two very distinct things. The data part is the science part. It's what we can measure, is what's black and white. The art part is the customer part, the customer motivation part, what customers do during their buying process, and the things that we can do to trigger your potential customers to move through a funnel, to download some information, or to contact another engineer to have a discussion, and so forth. That's the art part of marketing. And you've got to be able to do both those things. And Ray mentioned this earlier, the idea that you've got to have the talent at your company to handle both the science and the art part of marketing. And many manufacturing companies are way too heavy on the science part, and they need more help with that art side, the customer side, the customer relationship side, everything from graphic design to content that motivates people through a funnel, to having HubSpot configured properly so that you have great funnels and great sales funnels. All of those things are super important when you talk about measuring tools.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about where prospects find you and the channels to reach your buyers. And we're going to go through a few. It's not everything, and we're going to talk about a few, and they may or may not work for you. The ones we're talking about are pretty universal, but as we go through these, think about how we're talking about them and how we're talking about different users experiencing those, and use it as a way to think about what channels work for you and how your different buyers are going to engage with you in those places. So we'll talk about your website and then content on your website, but also just across the web. Uh, Related to that, SEO and AEO, which is always a topic of marketing, and then Google Ads and LinkedIn. And then some people might question, why does a marketing marketing webinar talk about trade shows? And we include it because we think there's a good partnership between marketing and sales there. And there's even some disagreement within organizations about where does that fall, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So your website. We've mentioned this already, but having a website is not enough. There's more to a website than just existing. And Tom and I have seen websites that have been around for a long time. And there's one that he and I looked at recently that I don't know that it was built in 1996, but it looks like it was built in 1996. And so, having it isn't enough. It's got to be good. And you've got to make sure that it's running properly. So technical website problems can hurt your SEO and your engagement. So it is a technical thing, but it can also be a user experience. If your website's broken, then you're going to lose people. And when you have the decision maker showing up at your website, there may be one page that they need to see. And if that's a bad user experience, it could be the difference between getting a deal and not getting a deal. And on this note, we actually have an offer for you, which is a free website audit as a part of a Is Your Website Broken campaign, because we see it so often, and it's a way for us to connect with people just really naturally. So if you're wondering how your website's performing, we'll have a link pop up for you, and you can click on that. And I think it's to schedule an appointment. We'll also have our contact information at the end that you can request that. On your website, speak to the buying team, not just one of them. And so think of the two audiences, but also the 3, 4, 5, and 6 that support those two people, and make sure that you have content that speaks to each of them, not just all of them. So we've got to have that custom content that answers each of their questions. And also on your homepage, be thinking that all of them are going to be there and match your content to them in the place they're at. Also, give them a reason to raise their hand. Give them something to offer, or give them something that they can show their interest in, a download or a request for a sample. Just give them that way to connect beyond just providing information. Every other channel leads back to the website. So if you're doing stuff on LinkedIn or YouTube, those are really important. But remember, your website's got to be solid, because those are eventually going to lead back there. So it's really important that you invest that time and money in your website before, or at a minimum alongside the other work that you're doing. And your website's the walkthrough before the walkthrough. They're going to do it digitally. They're going to see what you have digitally before they show up and see it. Or if you have a product, they're going to see the product on your website before you ship it out to them, and they get to have it in their hands.
It's just fascinating to me that websites are still so important in marketing, and they really are. Even with the advent of AI, a website visit for a manufacturer is so important, so critical. Someone took the time to come and check out your business that is probably specifically interested in what you're doing. They might want to work for you, but they're very interested in what you're doing. And this is that top of funnel awareness that's so important to growing your business. And then also keep in mind that younger demographics just expect you to have a great website. They're not going to be patient with broken links or websites that look 15 or 20 years old. You're certainly not going to hire, top recruits when you have a website that looks 15 or 20 years old. So give some attention to your website. Take us up on our offer to give you feedback and provide an assessment or an audit. It's a good step. the thing that we've seen over the years, it's a bottom line with your website, is faster growing manufacturing companies have more visitors to their website and more engagement with their brand on their website than those that aren't growing as fast. And larger companies, larger manufacturing companies, have more website activity. It's something we've seen over the last 20 years and we can measure.
So this is a quote from one of our partners who is a fractional CMO, CSO, VP of sales that works. We've worked with him on a lot of different manufacturing clients. And one of the things that he said to us is when he's speaking to manufacturers, you've got millions of dollars of equipment, you've got really smart engineers, but there's a gap between your capability and how you're presenting yourselves. And so this is about your website, but it's also about your content, which we're going to go into next. But make sure that what you're building in your marketing program matches the excellence and quality and value of the work that you do and the processes you have.
It's such an important point, Ray. In my talks, my Visage talks over the last 20 years, I've looked at lots of websites, lots of manufacturing websites. And one of the questions I'll ask the CEO with the website on a screen behind me, I'll say, what is it that your company really specializes in? What are you really good at? And then the CEO will tell me, we're really good at these things. This is what we're really good at doing. And then we'll look at the website behind me, the homepage, and I'll say, why isn't it on your website, on your homepage? And if it is on the website and the homepage, why isn't it explained clearly, just like you explained it to me now? Why is it so confusing on the homepage? That's that clarity that you've got to bring in presenting yourself at the top of the funnel for that first introduction to an engineer or a contact that's going to influence a buying decision down the road. Super important stuff.
And that's one of the first things we do when we bring on clients is work on them with their messaging. Because of what you said, Tom, a lot of times the websites we're getting don't have that. So we want to invest early and quickly, not just in getting that content up there, but sometimes we're actually helping formulate some of the ideas that they haven't put in writing to get out to their audience. They're still thinking about their internal language, but we help them put together the words that tell their stories and build the value of their companies.
Yep.
So digital content, there's some overlap here. It's easy to think about content being on your website, and actually 3 of our bullets here are about that. But I also want us to be thinking about a bigger than the content, but a few things about your website content. You need to make sure that you have 1 page per capability or product and that you're answering the actual question. We know that there's a process to building a website, and sometimes you might have a capabilities page and it lists your 6 capabilities or your services or products, but you've got to quickly move beyond that 1 page that's a list and into a page for each of those things that you offer, because when people are searching, it's got to connect with the details of that product. If you just have a general page that lists, you're not going to compete with the other businesses out there doing the same thing. One thing that we do often with new clients is we delete website content that was just written to chase traffic. 10 years ago, you may have had an agency in a time where developing a lot of content was a strategy, but a lot of that it isn't helpful, and it's actually good for the website to remove some of that. So if you have a lot of content on your website, go look at it and see if it's helpful or not. And if it's not, if it just seems like it was written for Google, take a look at some things that you may be able to remove from there. And then content is more than just getting found with SEO. So when you're writing content, what we see a lot of times is people going, well, what's the keyword for this page? Some pages are good for SEO, but some pages are editorial, or they're the specs about what you offer, and it may not drive traffic, but the one person that visits there might be the most important visitor to that page. And then write to solve their problems, not describe yourselves. This is true on your website. It's true on LinkedIn. If you're doing video on YouTube, remember that the most important thing is your audience and what their needs are, not what you do. We want to connect those things, but we've got to connect with them on their turf and their needs. And then with your content on your website, in social media, in videos, real photos of your floor, of your product, your people, Those are important. Stock photography, sometimes it's all you can do, but really get in there and get those pictures that are truly about you.
Yeah, I think that over the years, one of the things we've seen manufacturer websites missing is really good videos. And I think that there's so much you can do with videos, and those videos need to be about you, about your facility, your people, your products, your processes. Make those videos about what you're doing. Keep them to about 90 seconds for an intro video, but then you could have more content-based videos that could go for several minutes, and those are fine as well. The thing that's also missing quite often from manufacturer websites is that technical data, the specifications and the technical data, the product descriptions, how you do business, the machinery you have, the text and specs behind that. And then the other thing that's missing is that you want your website to be like a conversation with another engineer, right? So engineers like to work with other engineers to problem solve. So if your website content can be the starting of a conversation where two engineers are talking virtually, so to speak, then that is the natural progression from that is that engineer on your website will want to speak to an engineer at your company. And if that can happen, now marketing has done its job, right? Now that transitions into a sales conversation where you can maybe move toward a proposal or an RFQ or something like that. But that's the key is that you're thinking of this as a conversation, and what does that customer want where they are in their buying journey?
Excellent. We talk a lot about SEO and AEO. A lot of people come to us asking for that. They think that's the thing that they need, and it's a great place to connect, but it's usually one of many things, but it's one that we have to talk about. SEO is search engine optimization. It's really about Google. Yes, Bing and Yahoo, but usually when we talk about SEO, it's about the big one. And then AEO stands for answer engine optimization. You might also have heard GEO, which is generative engine optimization. And that's about ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and how you can get found there. Again, we're talking about specs and the process of material, not just the company. So people are searching early, they're searching for what they need, those specs, process materials. Later, when they know you, they might be searching for your company, but they'll come directly to your website. So you've got to make sure that you're writing in a way that the search engines think your content is valuable enough to be the source of this information, whether it's search engine or AI platforms. And name your capabilities the way buyers search, not the way you talk. If you have in-house language and somebody's searching for what you do, but you're not talking about the right way, you're not going to get found for what they're looking for. And then buyers ask AI questions at every stage of the journey. This is a newer thing in the last few years that people are having conversations long before you ever know about them. We've always known that people spend maybe 70% of the time. I don't remember what the most recent stats are. They've done 70% of the work before they ever meet you. And whether it's 70% or not, but these conversations that are happening on ChatGPT and Claude, they're moving people closer to you. They might even know about you, but you don't know about them yet. And then one thing we'd encourage you to do is go ask AI who you should hire for what you do. Be a potential customer and see how you show up in ChatGPT. And what we're finding a lot is that you might be showing up there, but you look at it, it's a pretty general story. And that tells a lot about how you're telling your story and how you're writing. You've got to make sure you're writing in a way that your unique story is getting out there where people are searching for you.
And if you think about your website content as a conversation with an engineer and you start moving down that path, then you're more likely to get found in AEO, right? Because you're answering the questions of engineers. What both SEO and AEO do not want to see is brochure copy about how great you are. They want specific information about your capabilities and how you solve problems. Now, in the work we do at Intuitive Websites, we have built a tool where we can look at websites and find content gaps. And those content gaps are things we can fill and help you fill to help you get found more in organic search in Google SEO, and also to get referenced by AI as well. But Ray mentioned a great thing to do. Go in and see how AI is currently listing you. What you'll probably find is that your About Us page is showing up, and then go look at that About Us pages, really answering the questions engineers have, right? And the other thing that shows up quite a bit is LinkedIn. So spend a little time in LinkedIn too, because LinkedIn is getting referenced quite a bit in AI searches, and it's a key channel for you as well.
Yeah. Okay, so Google Ads. For the most part with Google Ads, you're paying to reach the few, that 5% who are already looking. They're ready to go. And so they're typing in these terms that indicate they're looking for what you do. But the thing we have to keep in mind with these high dollar transactions is that they may look at that 2 months ahead of time before their research time might mean they're doing those bottom of the funnel searches before they actually will fill out a form. And so you've got to be ready for those people to show up, even though they might not fill out the form when they're ready. In a 6-month buying cycle, you can't measure success in month one. So building off of that point, it's an investment over time, and your budget should align with the lifetime value of a customer. If you've got a product or service that is going to bring $1 million into your business, $1,000 a month in Google Ads probably isn't enough. Is $20,000 too much? You have to look at the data and see that, but you have to have proportional spend to get the return you're looking for from an AdWords investment or Google Ads investment. The old school terms, AdWords. I talked with somebody about that the other day, so it sticks in my mind. Send paid traffic to a website landing page that's built to convert. If you send them to your homepage or even your product or service page, you're not going to get the results you need. So whether you're doing it in-house or with an agency, know that that's really important to have a page that is built specifically for those campaigns and has the keywords and the message that align across that Google Ads sequence. And then this is kind of tongue-in-cheek, but don't do ads yourself or hire your nephew to run ads. And this is kind of funny, but we actually see it. We've had a client recently who was spending $1,500 a month doing it themselves. And we got in and looked at it, and it was painful to see the keywords that they were paying for months before they started working. And within, a couple hours of work, we were able to clean that up and get really focused in on that audience.
Google will gladly take your money. Google won't send you an email saying, "Hey, I think you're spending money in the wrong place." They'll gladly take your money. And running Google Ads is a specialty right now. You really should work with an agency that's really good at doing this and has a lot of experience. Ray and I have been working with Google Ads since the inception of paid ads online. So we've seen everything, and we know this area really, really well. It is a great opportunity for many manufacturers because, as Ray said, you find those folks that are ready to buy with the keywords that would lead them right to your website.
Yeah. So LinkedIn, there's kind of a progression of these bullets here. Engineers follow you long before they need you. So just keep in mind that you may be writing content, engaging with folks a year or years before they're really going to connect with you in a meaningful way. Decision makers check LinkedIn to confirm you are real. So they may not be the ones that are reading your content for months ahead of time, but they may show up just to see if you're a real person, who you are, where you went to school, what things you're talking about. And so that one visit from a decision maker to your website or to your LinkedIn profile or your company's profile is really important. Say something only your company can say. Don't write about general manufacturing topics. Be unique and represent your company. And then business pages matter, but your people's stories matter more. And so a lot of times when we're working with clients on LinkedIn, we'll start by building out their business page and getting content on there. But the most valuable content that you can offer is the content from your thought leaders, your engineers, your salespeople, people closest to your audience, where they know what the conversations are and they can contribute to it in their feed. And then engage in conversation to build personal connections. You can post content, you can read other content, but you're going to get more interaction, and you'll actually connect with people that will buy from you someday if you're commenting on their posts and shouting them out for the things that they're talking about and giving their content visibility by doing that.
Yeah, we've seen so many manufacturers, Ray, that we ask them, what are you doing on LinkedIn? and it's sometimes it's next to nothing. And what a missed opportunity that is. And it's so inexpensive to engage in LinkedIn. It's really about your time. But once again, come back to that value. What is the key core value that you bring? And make sure those posts make their way onto LinkedIn as well. In fact, you should have a variety of types of posts in LinkedIn. And you might use LinkedIn too to recruit new talent for your team. But the thing is that don't ignore LinkedIn. Have an active plan for being engaged on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn ads as well can be super effective. They tend to be cheaper than Google ads, and they're highly targeted. You can find the personas that you want, and then you can market to them with exactly where they are in their buying journey.
Yeah. And we're really focused here on the organic part of LinkedIn. We could do a whole another session on the paid part of it and the newsletter features. There's a lot that it can do for you. And maybe that's an idea for the next topic.
Yeah. It's a very highly viable channel for your marketing is LinkedIn.
Yeah. And here's a quote that has to do with LinkedIn and data and the importance of looking bigger than just the numbers. This is one of our clients that we were speaking to. I receive a lot of positive feedback just interacting with people about the content on LinkedIn and the newsletter. And it's not just internal people telling me that. That was from a conversation where we had actually gone in with the thought that LinkedIn might not be the best place to be investing our efforts. And so we began that conversation, and in it, they brought up that they're having conversations with people about the content they're putting on LinkedIn. And that was a clear piece of data, a story to tell us that we need to keep doing that both on LinkedIn and their newsletter. And so data is important, but you've got to check with the people on the front line and see what's working as well, because you could very well turn something off or stop doing something that's really meaningful for your audience.
A big part of marketing is branding. And branding is what people think about when they think about your company. And that's what you can do in LinkedIn is you can help shape how people think about your business. And that's going to help you when people are ready to flip the switch and start talking about buying from you.
Yeah. The other part of this quote that I didn't include is they made a comment about some of their audience. There's 5 years between projects. They're massive construction projects, and they're not going to get those once a year. And so that interaction in between those projects is really important in a 5-year cycle. Okay, so trade shows. Manufacturers argue whether trade shows are sales or marketing, but we know sales owns the relationship, but marketing owns everything around it. So before the show, we've got your target lists that you use for emails that take people to landing pages to get that engagement and connect with folks before the trade show. And then after the trade show, obviously the sales team is going to do their job in those personal relationships, but the automated follow-up that your marketing team can often provide is really important so that those leads don't go cold. And then set a goal or you won't know if it worked. So what are you trying to accomplish with that trade show? We're actually going to the MD&M conference or trade show in October, and we're going through this for ourselves. So what's our goal? What do we want to get out of that? And then we'll know if it succeeded for us. Okay, this is a transitional quote here. It's going to take us beyond these the website and content and LinkedIn and Google Ads. You can't. This is from a president of a consumer products manufacturer that I spoke with, and they said you can't just have one marketing person and have meaningful growth. And so there's so much to do. It's not just these things that we talked about. And so when you talk about what to do in YouTube and should you be on Reddit, and there's so many things, one person can't optimize all of those channels and make them each effective. Using the channel for the people, for the different people and what their needs are. And so this is about really building your team and looking beyond just the few things we've talked about, but really asking the question, where does our audience hang out and how do we meet them there with content and messaging and any engagement that we can have with them? Okay, we're going to close the loop. Two more points here. Connecting marketing to sales. And so we're a HubSpot Platinum partner. And for us and you, HubSpot's the system that remembers every contact. So it's hard to keep up with what you're doing, and it's hard to track your effectiveness if you don't have a tool like this. So in HubSpot, segment your lists. The buying team is not just one person. So you've got to break your list up into the different people that you're trying to reach, just like your content is trying to target them. Email lives here, and so does every contact that it reaches. So you've got your list, and then you've got your content that you're sending out, and those things work together. Trade show leads belong in HubSpot, not in a spreadsheet. So HubSpot's the place where you're keeping track of all this. And you don't need a CRM built just for manufacturers. So we see people oftentimes thinking that it's got to be unique and custom to that, but often we usually find out that HubSpot can get what you need, and it integrates with a lot of other systems you might be using. And then this is really this is maybe the most important point here, is that success is movement in the funnel, not just closed deals. And you can't track that movement with Google Analytics. It's too narrow of a view. And so HubSpot is what can show you when people are engaging on LinkedIn, and what emails they're opening, and what sales conversations are happening via email. And your agency, your marketing team it'll be best for them to show you their success by having a tool like HubSpot.
Yeah, and Ray, we talked about manufacturing companies that rely so much on one or two big customers, and if they lose those customers, their company can almost fold, right? Or they have to wait for another big customer. HubSpot is the single most important tool to help you prevent that from happening by constantly working your pipeline, so that if a big customer leaves, you have other opportunities that you're working, or you can build a slew of additional customers so you don't rely just on the one big customer. Because without the pipeline, without movement in a funnel, without actively working the next project that's going to come to your business, you're putting your business at really high risk. And we talk to so many manufacturers that, yeah, they got HubSpot, they still pay for it, but they haven't done anything with it. Or they got HubSpot, they tried to do it internally, people lost interest, and they let it go. You really need a partner to help you with HubSpot. Now, there's a startup phase, and there's different phases, but there's a startup phase. Once you're up and running and things are going great with HubSpot, then your HubSpot partner is more there for maintenance and to support you. But this is something Intuitive Websites does really well. We help manufacturing companies finally get going in HubSpot and use it as a great tool to prevent that problem of only having a few customers and then not having a pipeline of new customers ready to go.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, we're a couple slides from being done here. If you have questions or comments, feel free to throw those in the chat or the Q&A. But the other part of kind of bringing this home and bringing it together is sales and marketing alignment. And sales and marketing silos are older than your website. Here's another little joke about those websites that look like they're from the early 2000s. Sales and marketing silos have been around for a long time. And we're finding more and more that it's important for us as an agency to show the effectiveness of the work that we're doing. But for your internal team and your executive team, we've got to be working together. You can't tell if marketing works without sales telling you. That's the ultimate answer. It's not just about data. It's about revenue and closed deals. And to break down those silos, start with one shared definition of a lead so that you're on the same page with that. And then ask sales why they rejected a lead. If you've come to a conclusion and agreement of what a lead is and they reject it, talk about that and get that information, then evolve your definition of what a lead is. So you're continually improving that understanding, but also improving what you're doing to get the right leads. And then tell us which leads closed. And by us, I mean the marketing team, the marketing team. Tell us which leads closed, and we will find more of those. We want to know both what's not qualified, but also really what's the sweet spot, what defines what's really working for you.
Most of the manufacturers we work with, I mean, they obviously have a business that's up and running, so they have the influence of a sales team, and they've seen results from their sales efforts. And what they haven't done is built that marketing program that supports the sales team. And a lot of that can come organically from what the sales team has found to be successful. And Ray, you're just right on the mark here. You've got to break down the silos, and you've got to have the two departments working together. In fact, the changes we've seen in AI in the last year have forced sales and marketing teams to even work more closely together than ever. And for manufacturing, this is a key component of your growth.
Yeah. when you close that $200,000 deal, you don't want sales and marketing fighting over who got it. You want them celebrating together and pointing to the successes that led that deal through the whole journey to get there. Okay, taking action. What do we do after this webinar? I hope you've been taking notes, but if you haven't, let me give you a few ideas. And these are things that you can do without getting budget approval. We're not trying to sell you something here. We'd be glad to have a conversation with you about what you need, but these are some things that you can take away and do today. Know your audience and know your buying teams. If you don't have written documentation of who your buyers are, jot down some notes as a first step. It'll help you think about where they spend time and what you need to do to connect with them. Assess your website before you spend anything else. If it's broken, we talked about this earlier, you're throwing money out the window. People might be showing up and you've got a leaky bucket and they're just leaving. So you can do that on your own. Just go, what I say is go and try and break it. See if you can find something wrong, or see if you can break it, and it'll tell you that probably other people are experiencing that too. Ask your best customers how they found you. If you don't have analytics, if you don't have HubSpot, just asking a question can give you insights into what's working. You may not get the exact answer. It may not be accurate. It may be the last thing or the most memorable thing, but you'll get something. Define what success looks like before you measure anything. This goes to the sales and marketing. Talk to your, next bullet, ask sales which leads closed and why the rest didn't. And then kind of a bonus one here, market while you're busy, not when the contract ends. And so we've got to be consistent through the cycles of revenue and through the cycles of the economy and whatever else is going on, and be building that pipeline throughout the journey. And
it's such an important point, and so many manufacturers don't do this. And then when they have that crisis point where a customer leaves, then what do, right? It's interesting that when I hear you talk about the action plan, Ray, I think about some of the questions that we've heard from manufacturers over the years, and I've jotted a few of those down. One of the questions we've heard is, well, we've tried all of that and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. We tried Google Ads, didn't work. We tried LinkedIn, didn't work. We don't get anything from our website, didn't work. And the answer to that question, basically, if you put in a question form, why didn't it work? You didn't have the right partner helping you, right? It didn't work because you were winging it. You didn't have the marketing skill set, and you didn't really consider marketing to be a discipline where you have to have that specialty in-house to do it. And so that's our value offering into websites. We become that specialist to help guide you, because it ultimately starts with strategy, setting the right strategy, then building the team to execute on it. So if you work with us as a manufacturer, you'll get a whole different perspective on marketing and what really works and what really doesn't work. The other question that we hear all the time is, well, yeah, but the other agency said do this. And now you're telling me to do this. And the other agency said do that. And my family member who builds websites says do this. Well, that's true. You're going to hear different opinions, but this is where the engineering side comes into play. What does the data support? And part of the data that Ray and I bring to the table is almost 50 years of experience in doing this. And that's an important data point. We're not winging it based on our personal opinion. We're giving you feedback based on what we've seen working in the space, and based on the fact that we review data and insights from dozens and dozens of websites every year in the manufacturing and industrial space. Yeah. So feel free to put your question in the comment box if you have questions like that, or if that's been coming to mind. And we're happy to follow up as well.
Yeah. If you're looking for some reading material, Tom and a partner of ours, Carl Becker, wrote a book together, Sales and Marketing Alignment, one of our topics, one of our slides. And then also more recently about digital marketing in the age of AI. Both great books with that goes in depth, not just on what we talked today, but a lot of other topics. And next slide. Last one here. We would love to talk to you. If you have a need, we're ready to chat. And as we mentioned before, we have a free website assessment. The book a meeting will help you get there, or the request, the link we provided earlier. Either one of those can get you there. But if you just need a partner to take a look at what you're going on, we'd love to have a conversation with you. And actually, I would love to have a conversation with you, just like I've had with other marketing or manufacturing leaders lately, and just to learn from you about what you're seeing from a business perspective, but what you're seeing in marketing too. We've got a lot to learn so that we can better serve our clients. So any of those conversations we would be glad to have with you. Tom, any closing words?
Well, I think it's great that you're here at this webinar taking this information in. It shows that you do have the intent to turn things around with your marketing and to make marketing work. I think that manufacturers that do good work and that are excellent in their space should be excellent at marketing. What an opportunity you have. So go out and make it happen. And I hope this webinar was helpful in you growing your company.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us today. We'll send out an email as a follow-up, and hope you join us for the next one as well.